what are these static plot appreciations? I'll put that down here so there's room on the board. Appreciations. Boom, there you go. Okay, static appreciations. The first one is one you're all familiar with, goal. The story's goal. And let me actually move that over to the left because I want to put these sort of side by side. I want to put the goal here, and next to it is the companion piece to the goal that carries the same weight, the consequence. Isn't that interesting that it spells consequence? I wonder why that is. I have no idea. But the goal and the consequence. And the next two we're going to explore are the requirements to the goal. So you see that goal's on this side. Require, I'll just put requirements. And the similar story point, the similar static plot appreciation that carries the same weight as requirements and has the same relation to consequence as requirements to goal, are the four warnings. I'll define each of these in greater detail when I get them all listed. Now below that, we have four others. We have the dividends, and the costs. And they have a relationship to the effort to achieve the goal through the requirements, just as costs have a relationship to the four warnings that occur, indicating the consequences near at hand. And finally, we have the prerequisites. I'll just put prereq, and the preconditions. Now, before I give you the specific information of defining each one, take a look at the way this list is lined up. Things that have kind of a positive feel, or a feel like you're making progress, forward progress, are on this side. Things that indicate making negative progress are on this side. So we have four positive indicators, four negative indicators, and four levels of each. Let's talk a little bit about each one, and then we're going to see some video clips tonight to illustrate each of these at work in several different stories. All right, first of all, goal. Goal is what the goal, well, let me put it this way. I was going to say goal is what the characters hope to achieve, because only some of them hope to achieve it. The other characters hope to prevent it. The rallying point for the goal is the protagonist. The protagonist is the character who most drives the story forward to try to achieve a goal. The antagonist is the character who most tries to prevent it or avoid it. And they have the rest of the characters rallying around them into two camps, those for it and those against it. Now, it doesn't matter with the other characters who they are by role. If it's a reason character, an emotion character, a sidekick, a skeptic, a contagonist, or a guardian, they might be on either side of the goal's achievement. Because the protagonist may be trying to achieve a goal that's actually a moralistically bad thing. And then the guardian, who represents conscience, would really be on the side of the antagonist. It also doesn't indicate, just by knowing the goal, which groups will be going together, because often characters that are trying to prevent the goal will sneak into the enemy camp and go along with them in the effort. So they'll be part of the good guys group, as it were, or if it's really the bad guys trying to achieve the goal, they'll be part of the bad guys group. Because keep in mind, the goal is just what's trying to be achieved starting from scratch, from neutral. And in James Bond pictures, for example, the villain is the one trying to achieve the goal. James Bond comes in after the villain has started whatever effort he or she has, and is trying to prevent it or avoid it, whether it's an international incident or stealing some gold. Like in Goldfinger, for example. Goldfinger comes up with a plan to steal gold. He goes out to get it. He's the protagonist. James Bond is actually the antagonist trying to stop it. Again, Dramatica has far more complex characters than just archetypes, but I'm simply using archetypes to illustrate these plot events. So goal we have as something that there are those for it, those against it. It could be a good or a bad thing, but it's defined as that which is trying to be achieved. Okay? The central achievement that everyone is concerned with one way or the other. Now, consequence, that is either what will happen if the goal is not achieved, Or it could be in some stories what has already happened that will continue to be the state of things, the condition of things, unless the goal is achieved to wipe out the consequence. For example, the goal might be to liberate people from a very negative environment, and the consequence would be that if this goal fails, they'll be stuck with that negative environment forever. Big Brother, an authoritarian government, or something like that. Or it could be that things are neutral, we're trying to achieve the goal, but if we don't, this is the consequence we'll face. So if you've only written stories where the consequence is, if you don't achieve the goal, this is going to happen, then you've been missing out on a chance to write stories in which something has already happened, and this is now the status quo, and the goal is achieving something that will make the consequence go away. Why would that not make the goal something the antagonist is doing? Because it's where you start your story, your point of attack. It's what you say is the status quo when the story begins. For example, if a James Bond story began and there was already Goldfinger at work and we knew it, and it was no news, then at that point that would be the status quo, and James Bond's goal would be to stop it. Oh, we know Goldfinger is doing this thing, let's get in there and intercede because it's gone far enough. Then the goal would be to change the status quo. You see, that's really what a protagonist is all about. In the story mind, the protagonist tries to change the status quo, and the antagonist tries to maintain the status quo. Even if the status quo is a process, the protagonist will try to end the process, and the protagonist will try to end the process, and the antagonist will try to keep the process, because the antagonist represents the force in our own minds to maintain the status quo, the protagonist to change the status quo. So, goal and consequence then, this is what is trying to be achieved, and this is what either is already there as the status quo that this will eliminate, or this is what will happen if this is not achieved. Okay, either way.